All right, so we'll go ahead and just start with the intro and all that good stuff. But for anyone that hasn't joined our webinars before, my name is Kendall. I'm our fashion and beauty director at Trendalytics. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I know September is always a very busy time. We're coming off of Fashion Week just ending today, and then market kicking off here soon. But we're going to kick it off with the September Top Trends webinar. Hi, guys. Right here, I'm going to share my screen. All right. So we have our September top trends. If you aren't one of our clients and have seen one of these reports before, we go through each different market sector from women's, menswear, beauty, and children's wear, talking through the top trends from the ones that are nice and emerging to our safe bets, and then those that are also declining. So we're going to dive through here, starting with women's wear. Okay, so looking at our emerging and safe bet trends here, these are some of the trends in terms that are populating really well within the Trendalytics platform. You can see here we have our little methodology bell curve that you, I'm sure, have seen many a times before when talking about trend. And what we're really looking at here is 1 and 2 on this graph that you can see on the top left side. So starting off with our emerging trends, just starting to uptick, getting that consumer interest starting in a really, really early stages. And then more of our safe bet trends that have been hanging out for a while, getting love both within the press and within social media. And we're not going to dive into all that peaking and that's on its way out here. These are these nice early trends you can be actioning on. So looking within women's wear, you can see this picture on the left. We've been seeing so much with a bandage dress and a lot of occasion wear. That has really been our big theme going on within these women's wear trends. So you can see a lot of like lucite heels, for example, are on the rise once again, up 424% to last year. And then looking at oh, thank you guys for letting me know that you can't see the slide. No, it is moving past. Okay, let me see if I can try this one more time. I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare. Let's try this one more time. Let me try hit desktop view instead of just the internet. So let's see if that works. Can you guys see this one okay now? Yes. Okay. Fabulous. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you for letting me know. All right, perfect. So now we are looking here at the emerging and safe bet trends within women's wear. So now that you guys can see the slide, we can see that we have a lot of jewelry and then occasion-driven dresses that are populating. As mentioned, we looked at the lucite heels that were up 424%. Then there's things like a satin ball gown, and you'll see upcoming up here the bandage dress is really, really resonating. And then also looking at things like the floral clutch up 644%. And then a lot of jewelry, looking at some more elevated gemstones as well, which is quite interesting. Okay, let's pop over. Okay, so getting us into our first trend here. So looking at occasion dressing. So occasion dresses are on the rise this fall. With school back into session, we're looking at short homecoming dresses being up 579% to last year. And then sequin homecoming dresses are also up 472% to last year. Getting into other different occasions, the A-line bridesmaid dress is seeing a big increase, up 342%. And as we mentioned, the bandage dress, it just really kicks off with Hervé Leger, and then a lot of other brands playing within that same space, up 318%. Okay, so getting us into our next theme here is looking at so many different bag styles beginning to resonate. So if you tuned in to our August webinar, you know that we mentioned talking about different bag trends starting to rise and our overarching emerging and safe bet trends, but they've really been continuing on here to own in their own theme. So, for example, the Chanel 2.55 bag is up 695% to last year, which goes a lot in the line of these different nostalgic styles coming back within women's wear as a whole, looking at ready to wear and accessories. And then as we continue on, other bags that are doing really, really well in the market, is the Celine Phantom. We have this crazy name backpack here that I will not even try to butcher the name of that. And then canvas tote bags. So as we mentioned last time when we talked about bags in August, it was a lot of these oversized silhouettes, thinking that back to school really driving this up. And then now you can see that continuing on, but we have a bigger variety. So it might be something that is really casual, like the canvas tote bag, or something that is more elevated, like one of our Celine or Chanel options. Okay, so our last women's wear trend here, calling this one I Feel Pretty. It's very feminine pieces, adding on whether it is that silhouette in general or adding on some softer, more romantic details to staple dressing items. So look at the satin camisole. Of course, this is such a great staple. But seeing this begin to rise and adding in new, fresh details. I love this option from Legence over in our image on the left. I think this is really, really beautiful and a cool way to be using lace in a manner that feels a little bit more fresh than just a smaller lace trim. So you can see that satin camisole is up 337% to last year. A couple other trends that are fitting within this same vein, a cotton mini skirt. Let's see the numbers here. It's up 95%. A floral print midi dress, which even coming into our fall seasons here, but updating maybe those florals in a darker palette. You can still see that consumers are still interested in this as it's up 170% to last year. And then lastly, I know we've been talking about ballet flats for a hot minute now. And we've been seeing this, of course, move further into loafers, to boat shoes, to see that minimalist clog expand. But thinking our flat footwear options, the leather ballet flat is still up 123% to last year, which is quite a, it's a pretty reasonable number for a trend that has been around for a minute. So again, that really signals that it's not necessarily that this trend is going away, but it's one that she's loving and it's evolving. And that's what's important to be noting. Okay, so getting us into men's. So, what I found to be really interesting about the menswear trends that were rising at the moment is they were very accessories driven. So, you can see anything here ranging, I mean, just take a single look of the Black's Onyx jewelry that we talked about last month being up still 1,449%. Looking at things like the men's chain bracelet up 260%. And then even things like different pairs of shoes, cross training shoes are the highest within the emerging category, up 94%. So we'll dive into our first theme here, continuing on to talk about footwear. So men's footwear trends are veering outside of traditional sneakers and Oxfords this season. For example, the leather cowboy boot is one that's really owning the menswear market. Definitely feels very, street style, very cool downtown guy and styled in more of an urban way, I would say, than in the traditional manner. But that's up 157% to last year. Men's skater shoes. We've been seeing this a lot of nostalgic styles, noting brands like Vans making a comeback. And we're going to talk about that even more within kids. But overall, this skater shoe coming back, being up 129% to last year in searches. And then even things like the men's heeled boots, and then very specific trends like the recovery shoe performing well. And I think that recovery shoe is something to be noting with how many different technology driven accessories we are seeing, from the watches to different sunglasses that can do, all sorts of technology driven things. Okay, so talking here, wearing the pants. So we have a lot of different pant styles ranging from silhouette to fabrication that are owning the menswear market this month as well. As a safe bet trend, the cotton chinos are up 155% to last year. The more of a relaxed fit pant, which I've been seeing so commonly and I think looks very great, looks really forward, is still up 100 or not 100. It's still up 85% to last year. These feel very like everyday go-tos, as we mentioned here, owning that staple sector of men's pants. Lastly, looking at some more sporty pants, the Puma joggers, for example, are having a moment. Again, it feels very much aligned with those nostalgic brands, starting to make a comeback here. And then in a more forward sense, maybe getting a little bit into early holiday season, but men's velvet pants are also performing really well here. So some early numbers looking with more of that emerging trend sector. Typically, as you can see, I'm going to just scroll us back 2 slides so you can see an example of this. Typically, because those emerging trends are new, they're not going to have those growth numbers as big as a safe bet trend that's been growing on momentum for a minute. So still important numbers, do want to point that out. Okay, and then lastly, we are looking at what's happening within jackets. So jackets are coming back, looking at the cooler months. So men's oversized jackets are really proving to be popular. They're up 48% to last year. And then things like the wool overcoat and the men's worker jacket are also some more forward styles that are doing really great. And then lastly, just like random cardigans, things with different texture or colors that are driving the trend that feel like they're standing out just a bit more. The men's yellow cardigan is up 85% to last year, and this is being marked as a safe bet trend. Okay, so getting us into beauty here. So, what I found to be interesting is a lot of our sustainable or a conscious beauty trends that we talked about in August are still performing incredibly well in September. I also did want to note that an overall theme that we've been seeing was a lot of hair driven trends. This could both be for styling, cuts, preserving hair, lots of different iterations, but a focus on hair is really looking and owning the emerging and safe bet trends. Okay, so let's dive into our themes here. So, firstly, making it last. As we know, we've talked about this before, but recession core is really owning in how we're choosing to spend our money and what we're choosing to spend it on. So, we really want different items that are going to last. So, whether it's something like a long wear nail polish that's up 422% to last year, or a long wear foundation is up 680% to last year, which is a really, really sizable number. And this is seeing a shift from a couple months back where we were looking a lot of tinted SPFs and lighter, different foundations. But now you can see some more of this heavier makeup is making a rise. Even looking at techniques like baked makeup being up 178% to last year. And then what are those tools that, of course, go along with that? Something like loose setting powder being up 151%, and noting brands like Huda Beauty that are really owning that category. Okay, so again, looking at our lips trends, we've been seeing two different things happening here. On one sector, we've been seeing color coming back. So searches for different berry shades or reds rising. But then we also are still focusing on more of this like glossy look that we've been loving for a minute now, but looking at different ways to get that. So maybe before we were just seeing searches for glossy lip. Now she's able to pick whether it's a sheer lip gloss that's up 324%, or something like a sheer lipstick that's up 104%. So there's more options. And then, of course, the Summer Fridays lip butter balm. This has been an absolute favorite of hers, and it's up 124%. So lots of different options, which again just marks that that trend is evolving and is going to hang around for a while in fresh iterations. Okay, so talking one more time about foundations here. So just leaning in it doesn't necessarily have to be long lasting, but these are our foundations that are really owning the market within searches at the moment. So we're looking at foundations that can really work for us whether it's something like a hydrating foundation that's bringing in some extra skincare benefits, we're seeing that rise. And then still, maybe it isn't quite that tinted moisturizer, but she still is interested in a lightweight foundation. But then moving this into further, seeing liquid foundation, this hasn't in general risen in a moment, but we're seeing this come back and then thinking through what is paired with a liquid foundation. Something like a makeup primer that is also seeing a rise in searches, up 48% to last year. All right, and finally, we are on our last category here. We have children's wear. Again, really looking at a lot of these back to school trends, calling out some of those great ones that we saw in August, continuing on into September. And I would say, as a whole, this was very accessories driven as well. All right, so let's dive in. Our first one, calling this out as a very tough guy trend. There was a lot of these edgy trends happening within the back to school market for kids. Something like the Guns N' Roses t-shirt being up 80%. Really cute, again, leaning into the nostalgia that we've been seeing as a whole from children's to women's wear. And even something like the Nirvana onesie being up 60%. Super cute, really fun. I think that's something that the kids can feel cool in, but also parents are into. So that's a fun one there. And then some of these other trends that go back to it again feels very like tough, that like tough guy in school. But looking at skinny black jeans are up 231% to last year. And then looking at distressed denim is also seeing a rise. All right. So we have very comfort driven trends working for us as well. And this doesn't necessarily just mean sweatpants, although they are up with cotton sweatpants, very light and breathable, being up 463% to last year. But looking at soft denim too, I think this has been something where we talked about the sweatpant jean was like such a hot topic last fall. And so seeing that trend really stick around, maybe it's not necessarily the sweatpant jean, but having a really softer denim versus such a hard pant works well. And I think especially, hey, if you're a kid and you were sitting in school all day, I don't blame you. I would want a softer pair of denim as well. And then also looking at some other knitwear that's resonating within this category, like a ribbed cotton tank top or a thermal Henley that feels really great for fall, winter. All right. Lastly, as we mentioned, getting us into our nostalgic or cult classics. A lot of these trends are timeless for a reason, right? So looking at our classic sneaker, that's up 360%. As we mentioned, the skater shoe within men's, specifically the Van skate shoe, is up 55% within kids. And then lastly, looking at vintage Gap seeing a rise. As we know, Gap has been doing so much over the last 2 years, just really like rebranding and owning their market share. Once again, we've been loving what Zach Posen's doing. Very, very cool. And then looking at thrifted fashion, just in general, being up 1,600% is quite a sizable number. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in for our iteration of our September top trends. As we mentioned last time, this is a new series for us. So we're excited to see that this has been resonating. As always, if you want to dive further into the Trendalytics platform, you can get connected with us at hello@trendalytics.co. And we don't have a ton of time, but if anybody does have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And then I do also want to call out that we have our top trends, or not top trends, well, yes, but our runway recap for spring summer 2026 webinar is going to be happening about the second or third week of October. So we'll get those invites out to you guys sooner than later. I was really impressed with New York Fashion Week this season. I thought it looked absolutely fabulous. I was out at the shows and I was really impressed with pairing that like emotional standpoint with wearability and saleability, which as we know can be really tough to do. So I think there's going to be a lot of great things to talk about this October. And we'll do one more call for questions. Otherwise, I will let you guys go. As we talked about, I know this is such a busy market time. Wish you guys good luck if you're going to Coterie or Magic coming up here. And otherwise, send us an email and we'll chat soon. All right. Bye, everybody.